for you guys. You know, I listen to the media a lot, and things go around in the media, and it's not accurate information, quite frankly. Now, there's something going around in the media that Yordenis Ugas, he's not a hard puncher, you know? It's not a hard puncher. And I'm even hearing new media, Blue Blood Sports TV, echoing those sentiments without really thinking through it. There's a difference between a KO artist, somebody who can punch hard. As the name suggests, a KO artist is an artist at getting the KO. They can set it up and knock you out. That doesn't mean, one, that a KO artist is a hard puncher. You don't have to be a hard puncher to set up people to knock them out. And two, hard punchers can exist and not be KO artists. So let's talk about Yordenis Ugas. I'm going to bring some things to light, and you guys go look it up, so that you will understand where I'm coming from, and it'll enlighten you a little bit about boxing, because a lot of y'all really don't know shit about boxing. I'm realizing that, and you don't. Okay, so when we looked at Yordenis Ugas fighting Manny Pacquiao, for example, when he landed that right hand, particularly his right hand, didn't he not rock Manny Pacquiao? Didn't he move him with his punches? So how do you mean he's not a hard puncher? I mean, just look at the eye test. So that's the first thing. The second point is, yes, Yordenis Ugas has a low knockout percentage, about 30-something%, right? However, what several people overlook, if you've ever watched any Yordenis Ugas fight, is that Yordenis Ugas has knocked down his opponents multiple times in fights he's lost and in fights that he's gotten a decision with. In fact, out of his 31 fights, he has knocked down opponents in those fights 20 times. Just some food for thought. So his KO percentage, the amount of fighters he's actually got stopped or has knocked out, is significantly lower than the amount of fighters he's actually knocked down, which is 16 fighters. So while he mightn't get them out of there, he has sufficient power and sufficient punching power to knock them down. So for me to say that he's not a hard puncher is a bit disingenuous and also misinformative for someone who's facing him. And I looked at his right hand, particularly his right hand, if you go and watch footage of him, is a menacing weapon. There's a reason why Sean Porter didn't try to go toe-to-toe with Yordenis Ugas. He's big and he's strong and he punches hard. Okay? So I thought I would share this with people because I'm seeing out here a lot of people saying they carry on these narratives and they're not accurate. They're not true. Look at Manny Pacquiao's face after the fight with Yordenis Ugas. His eyes, both eyes are puffy and shut. You got to be a hard puncher to puff up someone's eyes like that. Pacquiao's eyes don't puff up after fights like that. So what your eyes tell you in a fight, go with that. Don't go with what the announcers and commentators and what the system tells you is correct. Because what a lot of you fans do, and you don't even realize it, is the commentators influence what you think you're seeing. And you actually say, oh, no. I wasn't listening to the commentators, when you were. You actually echoing their sentiments, word for word. Some of you echo verbatim what they say. Because you read it and you see it so very often. And you don't believe your own eyes in what you're seeing in a fight. How can Yordenis Ugas be a guy that doesn't punch hard, but at the end of the fight, Manny Pacquiao's eyes are swollen up? Okay? He is a hard puncher. And he's dropped, in 31 fights, he's dropped fighters 20 times. You got to be a hard puncher to do that. So let's not fool ourselves and kid ourselves about Yordenis Ugas. We must do due diligence in whatever we're looking into. If I had to face Yordenis Ugas as an opponent, and I listened to you guys, I would get the shock of my life because the dude can punch. He may not stop guys. And I'm gonna give you another example. What you need in the building always to educate. Another fighter who has, he has heavy hands, but he doesn't stop people all the time, is he faced David Benavidez. Now I just lost his name. I'm gonna look it up right now. Freeze picture, please. I'm coming right back to you guys. Back at you live. The gentleman that I'm talking about is Ronald Gavril. Ronald Gavril has heavy hands, man. But does that mean that he gets the KO? No. You look at his knockout ratio, it is not extraordinarily high. But he's the guy that dropped David Benavidez. Lest you forget, he rematched David Benavidez. David Benavidez had a much more convincing win. But I'm just saying, right? And this is not to knock on anybody, but it's just that a lot of people say a lot of things and they don't realize what exactly they're saying. Factually, they don't realize they're off. And it's only when you have to face those fighters in the ring you realize how hard they punch and what they do and all of this stuff. That's why sometimes people say, well, what was the hardest puncher you ever punched? They may ask a boxer that, and the boxer might say, well, it's a guy in the amateurs, man. When I was in the amateurs, man, that guy could hit. It may be several different reasons why that person tells you that. One might be that the guy could catch him and so actually hit him, and he wasn't getting hit by other guys. It could also be simply that that person really hit hard. And just because he's made it through the fight and might even have won the fight, doesn't negate the fact that the guy could hit hard. And hitting hard doesn't mean you knock out people. Some people, they hit you so hard that instead of knocking out, you wake back up. Like Julio Cesar Chavez was talking about Roger Mayweather. Well, Roger Mayweather, he hit him. And he went to sleep, he said. In his own words. He said, I went to sleep, but then he hit me again and he woke me back up. Because Roger hit freaking hard for his weight class, right? He was a hard puncher. So, but the point is that a hard puncher, I see all of these these fan sites where they talk about who was the heaviest puncher, who was the hardest puncher. And people don't really understand what that even means. I had this discussion with what was the guy's name? I can't remember the guy's name right now. But I went on his channel and they were ridiculing me, saying, what are you talking about? I said, well, I've never been punched by. He was saying which one you think punches harder, Deontay Wilder or Chocolatito? I said, I've never been punched by either, so I don't know who hits harder. Okay? And he was like, well, he's a heavyweight and that don't mean shit. And they don't understand that. When I tell them, it don't mean shit that a guy's a heavyweight or a guy's a smaller guy. It doesn't matter. If you can punch, you can punch. And they don't understand that. And they don't understand that there's different kinds of punching power. They don't understand these things, these fans, right? So, and then they were like, well, which would you prefer to be in a dark alley with? Like, it's some of the dumbest ass fan questions you can ever get, right? And you're like, why would I even prefer either? Like, if they're coming at me, it don't matter who I'm in the dark alley with. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to get my ass whooped, right? A lot of people think it's your height or your size or your weight that allows you to punch hard. And we all know, from anybody who knows science and biomechanics knows, yeah, if you put on more weight, you punch harder. No doubt about it. But at the same time, some little guys punch like heavyweights. They punch like heavyweights. Tank. One guy said he punched like a heavyweight. Okay? And that guy spars heavyweights and he spars other people. And he said this dude punched like a heavyweight. And we literally have registered information showing Tank throwing his left hand, Deontay Wilder throwing his jabbing hand, and Tank actually accumulated more points when he punched the apparatus than Deontay Wilder did. So Tank can punch like a heavyweight. It literally is confirmed through that information. So when people say, well, size and all that, size, yeah, it does to some degree. That's why we have weight classes, whatever. But more, it's like the individual. Like, for example, if you can punch, right? So let's say you start your campaign at featherweight, for example, and you're punching at featherweight. If you put on a little bit more weight and you go up to lightweight, you're going to punch harder than you did when you was featherweight. You understand what I'm saying? So obviously weight influences punching power in that way. Now, but the thing about it is, different people, you can't go with that hypothetical situation in the sense that different people punch with different punching power. So telling me that Deontay Wilder, who punches like a mule, by the way, that Deontay Wilder punches harder, you're trying to make the case that Deontay Wilder punches harder, say, than Tank or even like Chocolatito. I can't tell you. I'm not going to try to pretend I can tell you. What I can tell you is, when I look at their KO percentages, Deontay Wilder has knocked out almost everybody that he's faced, whereas Chocolatito hasn't knocked out almost everybody he's faced. Okay? That doesn't mean that Chocolatito doesn't punch as hard as Deontay Wilder. I don't know. I never got hit by either of them to tell you. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, but I can tell you that you can look at the data and say, well, Chocolatito, he knocked out less people than Deontay Wilder. That's all I can say. And that may not be because Chocolatito is a less hard puncher than Deontay Wilder. It may just simply be that Deontay Wilder is a better KO artist than Chocolatito. KO artist. Because it's an art to setting up people to get them knocked out. And Deontay Wilder might be well, obviously he's better at it with his competition than Chocolatito is with his. Right? That's a given. So that's the thing that a lot of people just don't understand. They don't understand that, and we're not even talking about level of competition or anything like that. A lot of people feel, oh, this guy can punch the hardest because, he knocking out a lot of people. Whereas there might be a guy that punch much harder than him, but just don't know how to set up his power. So guys be, they be bracing for the power. You know what I mean? And then there's different kinds of power, right? There's the guys who have the big bone density and everything, and they hit with thudding punches, and they break you up. Like they would break your eye sockets, they break your head, they break your rib cage, they break shit. And that's how they get stoppages. And if you're tough enough to somehow ride through that situation, and even if you get something broke, you decide, man, I'm fighting through that, and you fight through it, you might make it to the finishing bell, right? Then there's the other guys who they use speed and they also got good bone density, right? And their bones are all held together so that their hands don't break as often. They have relatively big hands, but they use that speed. They like, poof. They're more like that, right? They hit you, poof, right? And those guys, it's a combination of factors that they set up the KO and they get you, right? So there are guys who are like, we call them bruisers. You think of a guy like Marcos Maidana, he's a bruiser. You think of Gennady Golovkin, he's a bruiser. You think of Sergey Kovalev. Though Sergey Kovalev is a bruiser as well. You would be looking at Sergey Kovalev beating up a guy, right? You see the guy's face all bloody and everything, but it looked like Sergey Kovalev ain't even using a lot of power. It's just the way how the bone density is. When he hits you, man, you feel it all the way down to your toes. You know what I mean? So there are different fighters who They're not even teeing off on you. But the momentum at which their hands come at you, and just the density of their hands, it just your body just gives way to it. It's kind of like taking a steamroller, which a steamroller is a thing that kind of it levels out roadways. Taking a steamroller that's going at only about 5 miles an hour, and you're standing in front of that, the weight and the density of that roller, if you stand in front of that, it will run you over and break every single bone in your body, right? It's not moving super fast, but it's so dense that you don't want to be in the way of that. Well, it's the same thing with those guys who are thudding power, right? They may not throw the fastest, but if they connect with you, they're going to do some damage. And that's just, that's just the way how those guys are. So there's that kind of hard puncher. And then there's the guys who use technique and speed to set it up and execute it like a bolt of lightning, and switch your nervous system out. So it jolts you and everything, and lights go off, right? And you start seeing colors and shit, and then everything comes back on. But yeah, so there's different kinds of power. So when you tell me, well, who's the hardest puncher, or this guy's a hard puncher and that guy's not a hard puncher, what are you really talking about, man? What are you really talking about? I always try to look at things quantitatively or qualitatively, and if I can't get some sort of precise understanding of qualitatively, I prefer to leave that alone. But fans, they're mystified with that. They always feel, how hard did he punch? It's to me, it's the dumbest question you could ever ask, but that's how fans are. They ask that question. How hard? How was it? How was it when he hit you? And be like, well, I've been hit all the time in all my career, and it was just like another hit for me. That's what a boxer would tell you. Or did he hit harder than this guy? And boxers would tell you that because they get hit so much. It's like it wasn't nothing special. They would tell you that. And then a lot of people are like, he got so much ego. How dare he? This guy's a hard puncher. How dare he say that? Well, they've been punched so many times. They would know if something's out of the ordinary when they get punched, okay? Because that's all you take. Anytime you're sparring or anything, you're taking punishment. Whether you're blocking it or not, you're taking punishment. You are getting hit, okay? So they would know. And boxers, remember, your mentality and everything is totally different in boxing. You're not, of course, you're taking punches and you're taking punishment, but that's not the goal. The goal is to dish it out, right? To make sure you don't get hit flush in any sensitive area and dish the punishment out. So boxers not really thinking like that, If somebody really has good power and it gets their attention, it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to get hit by that. But when you constantly getting hit every single day you're getting hit, right? Your body and your nervous system adapts to that, and you become somewhat numb to it. Unless somebody got some earth-shattering power that you not used to, because your body's toughened up to that. Your body's like, okay, I know I'm going to go through some punishment today. So your body, if you were just like a newbie like me and you just step into the ring, it'd be a totally different experience because you never been punched like that before. You ain't training your chin and working your chin and working your body and toughening up your body and taking punishment every single day. So for you, it would be different. And that's what people don't understand. Like when a boxer say, well, he didn't hit me with nothing special, they think that's some sort of arrogance. It's not arrogance. The dude be taking punishment every single day. Okay, he would know what it's like if there was something exceptionally different in the situation. You're not taking punishment every single day. So when you ask a boxer what it feel like, okay, he's going to have a different answer to if you personally went in front of the guy and said, wing it on me and let me just take the hit. Or you put on a bodyguard and let the guy wail on you doing body punches. Then you would understand firsthand what it is and how hard they hit. Okay, and you go from boxer to boxer and you can find out for yourself. That's the only way you're going to really know. Asking people what they think and how hard this guy hits really is not going to help you. Some people, they like to do for entertainment purposes. So he hit me so hard, I felt it down in my toes. Yeah, okay. How about this guy over here? He hit me so hard, I felt it down in my toes too. Okay, how about this guy over here? He hit me so hard, I felt it in my toe. Okay, so what does that mean then? You know what I mean? So all I'm saying to people is that in boxing, you know, it's sort of based on the person's experience that you're gonna get an answer. But everybody wants, you know, to hear certain answers, and they want to get that. Oh man, he hit me so hard, man. I just felt like I went back into time. You know, they want to hear some shit like that. You know what I mean? For the sound bites, and it's always the same old dumb questions. You know, but that's boxing. And hopefully people will ask more meaningful, more sensible questions, you know, to a fighter. Especially a fighter that gets stopped. If you got stopped as a fighter, first of all, do you even know you got stopped? Do you even know the fight was over? Right? That's the first thing you gotta ask, because brother be busy in the fight, and then all of a sudden he's like, okay, so why am I? Oh, that's what happened. Okay, I got knocked out. Okay. Because you might be busy in a fight, next minute you're sitting down on a stool. You wondering what just happened. And then okay. Oh, he knocked me out. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not what you think it is. Everybody else gets to see what happened to you if your eyes rolled up in your head, if you was like, oh, and you fell down on the ground on your face, or you fell on your back and you was just limp on the ground for a minute. Everybody else gets to know about that. You, personally, you don't get to know about none of that. You wasn't there. Your body shut down. You see? So that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like when you think of Patrick Day. Patrick Day, I don't even know if he knows he's died. I don't know if he ever came back to consciousness. So his body completely shut down and was trying to deal with the hemorrhaging that was happening inside of his head. So they open up his skull and, you know, try to give it space so that hemorrhaging could drain out. And then to figure out if he would be paralyzed for the rest of his life or if he would live a normal life. Now, you know who, the Puerto Rican kid who's still alive to this day, you know, he's getting back some use of his body. He's able to smile and talk with people now. He has to live the after effects of a fight that, you know, went south, and he got too much punishment. He finished the fight and everything. He got too much punishment, and then his brain started to swell, and he didn't know that. You know, Zav Judah is very fortunate that after that last fight he had, that he was able to go to the hospital. If he didn't go to the hospital, he would be a dead man today. So all I'm saying to people is that you have to understand that in boxing, guys take a lot of punishment. Sometimes a dude be dishing out some serious punishment to another guy. And we're not paying attention to that because he's not stopping him. He's not knocking him out. But he's doing a lot of damage. And the thing about it is, a guy who's a hard puncher, he could do damage like physically to a guy. But it really, the more dangerous guys are the guys that break down fighters and actually are punishing them round after round after round, and the fighter still has such a strong will to keep going that they keep going. And the accumulation of punishment could be brutal, man. You know, it could be brutal. So the dangers in boxing actually commensurate with the guys who are not the big punchers, not the big knockout guys, the guys who get the big, large assortment of knockouts. But yet at the same time, you know, a guy could kill another guy just with one punch. You know, you saw it with Cornwell versus Patrick Day. You saw him. I mean, he knocked him to next Thursday, right? He actually knocked him out of his body, right? He hit him. I think he hit him a right hand. Then he hit him a second right hand. I think he finished it off with a left hook, and that left hook was just one too many, man. Dude hit the ground. He was gone. Before he hit the ground, he was gone. Right? Hit the ground. Bam! Slammed his head into the ground. Hands went back this way and then came back forward. And he never got back. He never got back consciousness. Right? He was gone. That was it. End of story. Right? And you know, what I'm trying to say to people is that, you know, it's a dangerous sport. And just because a guy, you know, doesn't seem to be getting a lot of KOs doesn't mean that he's not a hard puncher. I'm going to give you one more example. And I can tell you for a fact this dude is a hard puncher. Go check him out. He'll come to me. I forgot his name again. I keep on forgetting names. He beat Timothy Bradley beat Junior Witter. And this guy, he was the WBO champion. He beat Ricardo Torres. Kendall Holt. Kendall Holt has a KO ratio of about 40%, somewhere there, about 40 something percent. But trust me, man, this dude has a left hook from hell, okay? Kendall Holt was a devastating puncher, and still is probably to this day, because your punching power don't go. And his left hook was a left hook from hell. And I mean, he knocked out Ricardo Torres. Ricardo Torres knocked him out in the first fight. They had a rematch, and he knocked out Ricardo Torres, right? To become WBO champion. He faced Timothy Bradley. I mean, this dude, it was like he knocked Timothy Bradley into next Tuesday. You know what I mean? He lifted Timothy Bradley off the ground with the left hook. Timothy Bradley hit the ground, bam, flatlined him. He dropped him a second time, somewhere in the later rounds of the fight. Kendall Holt, hard puncher, but his KO ratio would never tell you that. DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley had a left hook from hell. He was a journeyman, actually, and he won his first world title, WBO junior welterweight title, by beating Randall Bailey, another heavy puncher. Okay, and all I can tell you guys is that none of them guys I just mentioned have high KO ratios at the end of their career. All right, and it's not because they're not hard punchers. It's not because they could knock out people, because they was, but they lost a lot of fights as well. And so because they lost a lot of fights, their KO ratios dropped. You know, and Chop Chop Corley was a tough guy. He was always in great condition. Even to this day, he's in great condition. But one of the things about Chop Chop, he can't get the fights. He can no longer get the fights that he wanted to get, you know. So that's how it goes sometimes. You can't land the fights you want to land. This business it's a tough business. So that's all I got for now. That was 28, almost half an hour I spent talking to you guys on what you need. Peace.